I want to talk a little bit about, not really so much the Terrell Pryor situation, but more about paying college players.
Yeah.
Mr. Pendleton brought it up at the end of the show last week. We didn't have time to touch on it, and I quickly said, no way it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen for a few reasons. Number one, Terrell Pryor. Obviously, he's taking advantage of everything he's already getting at Ohio State.
Yep.
And if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure they're paying for his college tuition, which isn't cheap, at the Ohio State University, right?
Oh, yeah.
So why would we give this guy $300 or whatever to go blow on cars or drugs or women or where the hell he's doing? That's just like giving welfare to people that don't deserve it so they can go buy their drugs and whatever the heck. It doesn't make sense to me. You can't do that. You can't just give a 17-year-old $300 because he's an athlete.
No, I agree, and I sent this over to you because every week we, believe it or not, we try to actually prepare for this show.
So of course we did.
And Stark sends over some topics and says anything else you want to touch on, and I brought this up. The paying college athletes thing. And I don't think that there's any way that a school can have a student on the payroll. You know what I mean? I don't think that there's any way that there would have to be like a uniform amount that every Division I school paid every athlete. Otherwise, you start getting into agents, and you start you have holdouts with college players. I mean, it would literally turn into a professional.
High.
It would get out of control if the schools were doing this.
It's bad enough as it is.
But what I was really wondering about it is how we feel about the extra stuff, about players signing memorabilia and getting paid for that. Players making appearances and maybe signing auto, whatever, just getting paid for stuff that's outside of the school, from boosters,
selling your jersey, selling the ring.
Exactly. And
no problem with it at all.
The golf trips.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
It's given to them. It's theirs.
My problem is when he goes and buys a tattoo with it.
Yeah.
That I don't really like, but
I've got no problem with it.
But it's his money.
That's it.
It's not the college's money.
I don't want the school to pay them, but if they have items they can sell and get money for, all means, go ahead.
And I agree with that.
Yeah, it's your stuff.
But then I started thinking.
I wouldn't do it, but it's your stuff.
I started thinking, though, but then, what would stop these schools from, while they're recruiting players, to say, oh, yeah, and by the way, you want to make a little money on the side, come to our school, and we have guys that'll pay you this much for signing.
They're already doing that.
Yeah, sure, that's nothing. I mean, you're not going to get around this. This college, it's sleazy. The basketball, the football, it's going to happen. You can't get around it. The NCAA tries somewhat to watch it, but they do a really horse bleep job at it.
And then you take 2 years to get a final answer. 529-1450 is our phone number. Let's take a phone call. Good morning. You're on Sports 101. Go ahead.
Hey, this Terrell Pryor stuff, I'll tell you what, these guys, they have these press conferences. They got 3 hats sitting there. These Midnight Madness where they put these kids' names up on the board. And, I mean, how many people really thought Jeremy Richmond was going to last more than 1 or 2 years at Illinois?
Right.
Yeah.
To me, he's the same kind of guy. They're selfish. And I guess, to a certain point, there's nothing wrong with that. But, I mean, these guys, they build them up so much, and then they expect, I'd have loved to have had my 4 years of school paid for and had special deals and special dorms and stuff like that, but it just seems like it's never enough.
Now, Carl, let me ask you a question. Don't you think that the problem is now, because I don't know how old you are, but when I was young, I'm like you, it'd have been great just to get your college paid for. But now I think these kids coming out of high school, they expect so much more.
I've worked with a couple guys who played Division I sports, and you can tell they're pampered. They were good guys, but you can tell everything was given to them.
Sure.
And I'm 48 years old. I mean, I enjoy looking at the recruiting magazines and all that stuff like everybody else, and I like fantasy sports, but, it comes to a point where I understand these guys are humans and just like me and people who have to pay $35,000 a year with some financial aid and some scholarships, they're there for the right reason to me.
They didn't give you a car because you got a 4.0, did they?
Huh?
You didn't get a car because you got a 4.0 GPA, did they?
No, and I didn't get a Camaro that said Snake 33 on it.
Right. And you didn't expect